Another year, another big offseason for the New York Metropolitans as new president of baseball operations David Stearns has plenty of key decisions to make, not only on his surrounding cast in the front office or the coaching staff, but of course the players that are going to be on the field for the upcoming year, which leads us into today's discussion, which is the latest edition of 5 Mets who will not return for the upcoming season for one or multiple reasons. And if you guys have been following along on the channel, then you know this is our 3rd edition of said video. We went 2 for 5 in our first year of doing this topic, 5 for 5 last offseason. Really impressed with that, and now I'm excited to see what the results will be ultimately with this one. And of course, want to know your thoughts in the comments down below on the 5 players that you anticipate the Mets to part with this offseason. Now, without further ado, let's jump into this one. Starting off at number 5, we have the man who came along with Francisco Lindor in that blockbuster trade a couple years ago, that being in veteran right-hand starting pitcher Carlos Carrasco. Cookie, it's really unfortunate. There isn't too much more that I think I need to add on here. All Mets fans have the understanding that while, yes, they need to add starting pitching this offseason, they also need to add quality starting pitching, reliable starting pitching. Unfortunately for Carlos Carrasco, now at the age of 36, heading into his age 37 season, is just not someone that you're looking for to keep in this rotation. Just a tough year all around for Cookie with a sub-7 year rate and 20 games played, dealt with ailments throughout the year as well, but just not a consistent starter at this point in his career, and really hasn't been for the entirety of his Mets tenure. Again, had a solid 2022 campaign in which he ate plenty of innings for the Mets, but still someone that when we look at his entire Mets tenure was injury riddled and just underwhelming to say the least. So Cookie, while I have no ill will and wish him nothing but the best with his future endeavors, those endeavors are more than likely not going to be in Queens. And at number 4, we have everyone's favorite feel-good story from this past season, the legend himself and DJ Stewart. After being a late season call-up, DJ decided to do his best Barry Bonds impression, raking 11 home runs in just under 60 games, even though it felt like the majority of those home runs really came in a week or 2 week span. It was crazy what was happening with the DJ show in Queens before the season's conclusion. Had a 500 slug this year, very solid slash line, took full advantage of every opportunity given to him, even had a solid glove, had some highlight reel plays there in right field when needed. But DJ, at this point in his career, someone who has not really been a consistent MLB player, hasn't been given said opportunities too much either, but this is a David Stern ran Mets now that really wants to emphasize defense for this club for the 2024 season and not having too many standalone DHs, and whoever's going to be in that DH position that can provide that consistent power. And as impressive as DJ was during his stint, he doesn't have the track record enough to truly warrant giving him that everyday job, and with only having one minor league option left too, it's probably in the best interest of both clubs that they part ways so DJ can find a more consistent and reliable role elsewhere. At number 3, we have a fan favorite, the infield wizard himself, and Luis Gourmet. And for the first time in his career, Luis Gourmet was not an infield wizard in the 2023 campaign. He was anything but. He was a negative defensive player by quite a bit. And yes, ailments played a factor. The lack of playing time certainly played a factor. But more than anything, Luis Gourmet just had a brutal 2023 year after peaking in 2022. A contact hitter, over 270 average, was tough, was not able to slap the ball opposite field nearly to the same degree this year. Looked like a guy that struggled knowing that there isn't the same shift that we've seen in years prior. Gourmet, like McNeil, a guy that was known to be able to spread the field, slap the ball down the third baseline, knowing that there was a gap of the shift, wasn't having that same gap this year and wasn't able to properly adjust his game. On top of that, the defense being a low when David Stearns is trying to upgrade defense for this upcoming year, wants more flexibility with the bench, but guys that can, of course, give you the best type of production possible on the offensive front. And this now being a Luis Gourmet who has no minor league options left, is a non-tender candidate along with DJ Stewart, who we just spoke on, with the tender deadline coming up around November 17th. There's just more reasons than one to believe that Luis Gourmet's tenure in Queens has unfortunately come to an end. At number 2, we have the biggest wild card in today's discussion, and none other than Omar Narvaez. Narvaez and McCann, what do they have alike? These are two guys that have robbed the Mets of millions of dollars, are the reasons why they're now 0-2 when acquiring free agent catchers since Steve Cohen first became owner. James McCann, over $40 million contract of nothingness, completely worthless in hindsight, and to the point where the Mets even ate a portion of his contract to part with him to Baltimore last offseason. Now we fast forward and we could see a deja vu situation here with an Omar Narvaez. In his first year making $8 million was anything but good. He was injured early on after looking nice with the bat in his first first couple weeks. Francisco Alvarez proves that he's not just an MLB caliber player, but is one of the best backstops already in the game of baseball with so much power and is ready to play as much as humanly possible. So we don't need too much production from the backup spot, but you want something. And offensively, if you can't get that, which Narvaez is not known for, and defensively, which he is certainly not known for, there's so much to be desired there from those respective spots. You have to wonder how much of a willingness the Mets have to even bring Narvaez back for the upcoming season, or they're going to show a willingness to eat that contract, part with him, and acquire someone else in either the free agent or trade market that will either be potentially younger, just give you more upside than what you're currently getting in Narvaez. And yes, I completely understand if the Mets decide not to do that, because it's easier said than done when a guy's owed $7 million for the upcoming year, and of course he leaves a lot to be desired. But this is a Mets team that is trying to upgrade in many ways for the upcoming year, including defense. And if they want to truly prioritize defense, then you want to make sure you at minimum have a defensively minded backstop, which is not the case here in Omar Narvaez. And at number 1, we have what is a surprise to absolutely nobody, Daniel Vogelbach. Now, by a show of hands, how many of you want to see Daniel Vogelbach starting in the DH spot for the Mets for the 2024 season over internal options headlined by a Mark Vientos and others, for example, or externally like a Jorge Soler, just to name a few, should you dabble in the free agent market, right? I'm not seeing any hands, and there's more reasons than that than just me looking at my camera right now, and that's because Daniel Vogelbach, unfortunately, after having a roaring start to his Mets tenure in 2022 after being acquired in the Pittsburgh Pirates deal for Colin Holderman, the first month and a half or 2 months looked great. Since then has been anything but, had a brutal, truly insecure looking 2023 season. When I mean insecure, I'm talking about a guy that just truly lacked confidence at the plate, was not willing to take the bat off his shoulders for large stretches of time. Unbelievable the type of leash that Vogelbach actually got in large parts throughout the first half of the year, and that caused a butting of heads reportedly through the New York Post, stating that Billy Epler, Buck Showalter, they didn't see eye to eye on playing versus not playing, that being in Vogelbach. Of course, Epler, as the GM who made that trade, in which it hasn't really looked good since then, is trying to save face by continuing to give Vogelbach opportunities and hope that he can blossom, be the guy that the Mets were hoping to land initially. And for Buck Showalter, just trying to do his best foot forward by having the best team out there on a day-to-day basis and giving some young guys opportunities in the DH spot. You know, we were all under this assumption that, you know, Buck was that large part for Vogelbach playing too much, when in reality it may have in fact been the exact opposite situation, with Epler having more to say in that decision making. And again, do not get me wrong, Vogelbach, tremendous start. Again, loved a lot of things about him, thoroughly enjoy him as a human being. I wish him all the best with his future endeavors. But after a 2023 campaign in which you're getting little power out of the DH spot once again for a lefty bat who has plenty of weight and plenty of power but cannot really utilize that to his ability, an on-base god that was not a god this past year as well, and a guy that provides no defensive upside, no positional versatility whatsoever. David Stearns wants to upgrade defense. He wants to upgrade positional versatility both on the bench and in that DH spot, and give the Mets, I don't know, consistent power production. The Mets have had this DH spot for a couple years now and have not utilized it nearly to the degree that they should be doing. It has been an utter embarrassment, as a matter of fact. And Daniel Vogelbach, while he has had some nice moments here and still has club control, there's just more reasons than one why we could see him being parted with here. Again, no ill will with him on that front, but this is a David Stearns ran Mets now that has had no problems parting with him, not once but twice. He acquired Daniel Vogelbach heading into the 2022 season, parted with him around the deadline or just because of the short year. Then 2021 brought him in as well and parted with him again. So Vogie, while he has had recent success and tenures with the Brewers, it didn't last too long because Stearns did not commit to him. And when asked over this past day about his future, that being Vogelbach and being tendered or not for the November 17th deadline, Stearns replied basically saying that yes, while there are things that we appreciate about Vogelbach, there are also some clear things that go beyond this that we have to take into consideration as we're actively discussing. If you're reading in between the lines, which I know a lot of people are able to do, then you know the conclusion is that yes, Daniel Vogelbach's time in Queens has likely come to an end. Alrighty, folks, it's that time for you to let me know your thoughts again in the comments down below. If you agree or disagree with these 5 picks of Metropolitans that will not be Mets for the 2024 season, whatever your thoughts are, drop them down below. Thank you all so much for the continued support, and stay tuned for consistent coverage of all things Mets all off season long. This is your boy Wardy signing out. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace.